The U.S. Arab Radio Network is the largest Arab and Muslim radio network in America, broadcasting throughout the Midwest region Monday through Friday on WNZK AM 690. U.S. Arab Radio features Arabic and English language programming on every topic, from health, food, and culture to government, politics, and legal issues. Listen live to U.S. Arab Radio in Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, and Windsor, Canada on WNZK AM 690. And in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia on WDMV 700 AM. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. So join us every day on the U.S. Arab Radio Network and check out our website at www.arabradio.us.
وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا في بث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK Radio 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning, Michigan. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues.
And welcome to Two Guys on Politics. And this is Season 5, Episode 11 of our podcast. Myself, Ray Hanania, and former Congressman Bill Lipinski. Broadcasting on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on WNZK AM 690 Radio in Michigan, as well as on YouTube at twoguysonpolitics.com, where you can subscribe and follow all of our podcasts, listening to the insight offered by Congressman Lipinski and my I was going to say opposition.
Oh, no.
My respect, and because Bill is a phenomenal person. He's been in politics for so many years. Nobody knows politics better than him. We're going to talk about the war in Iran, President Trump's speech on Iran. We'll talk about things like the economic burden on America and the impact of Trump's policies on the midterm elections. And then in the second segment, we'll talk about the issue of birthright. I'm not sure, and I think Bill agrees with me, that people don't really understand what this was all set up and what the purpose was. So we'll talk about that. And then we're going to end it with something positive finally, right? The Artemis launch to circle the moon and the restoration of America's space program. It's just phenomenal to see that happen. And we'll talk about that. So we invite you to subscribe to our podcast at twoguysonpolitics.com so you never miss out. We'll be right back to talk about all this right after these messages.
When the aroma of Mahmoud Saleh Basmati fills the air, you know it's going to be a good meal. Extra long pearly white grains that cook up fluffy, separate, and light. Never heavy, never sticky, just pure, fragrant perfection. It's the rice that feels as good as it tastes. Gentle on the stomach and full of energy. Elevate your everyday. Ask for Mahmoud Basmati at your supermarket and taste the difference.
Do you receive SNAP food assistance? When it's time to update your information, it's important to keep your information fresh and report any changes to your income, employment, family situation, or address. Life changes. Make sure your benefits keep up. Together, we can help keep food on the table. Learn more at michigan.gov/food assistance. Sponsored by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
After years of war, displacement, and loss, the silence left behind is the heaviest part. In Gaza, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen, families are trying to begin again. Their children aren't asking for the impossible, they're just asking for a chance. At this critical moment, education is more than a classroom, it's a lifeline. It restores dignity, heals trauma, and opens the door to a future that war tried to close. Life for Relief and Development stands by these families. We move beyond emergency aid to provide the stability of long-term education in conflict zones. This Ramadan, your gift, even $50 or $100, can change a child's story from a victim of war to a student of the future. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 800-827-3543. Life for Relief and Development. Together, we build beyond war.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Dana, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics. And the next voice you hear will be the mellow tones of Mr. Ray Hanania.
Thank you, Bill. It's always a pleasure to be on the program. Last week I was traveling. I was in Miami, and I watched Trump address a financial conference there. And he went on for an hour and 40 minutes, just rambling about how great he was. And I'm sitting there going, oh, thank God that I had asked the newspaper I was writing for, have some other reporters help me with this, because in an hour and 30 minutes, it's hard to figure out what the news was. In between him patting himself on the back, calling himself the greatest president ever, saying he's done more than all of the presidents that this country has ever had combined. Just that narcissism, you got to cut through that. And what was his message? I couldn't find it other than blather. So I let those guys write the story from across the seas. But it was really just fascinating, how he focuses everything on himself, which I think is what's happening in the war in Iran. First of all, he gave a speech last night. What did you think of that? I think it was like 20 minutes or so.
Well, the speech he gave last night, I thought probably was the best speech he has ever given as president. Why? Because he stayed on script. He didn't go off of script. He didn't ad-lib whatsoever. I thought his delivery was direct. I thought the words that were used were moderate, but understandable. Now, on the other hand, unless you've been living in a dark, deep cave without a radio, without TV, or without the internet, you would not have learned anything new in that speech last night. That speech was about the past, not even the present, but about the past, and certainly nothing about the future. And I wanted to hear about the future. I wanted to know when the war was going to be over. I wanted to know when the straits were going to be open. I wanted to know, were we going to get a new regime? Because I have read on several different publications that the Gulf states who have been aiding us either covertly or overtly in this war against the Persians are very concerned about us saying, we won, we're going home, goodbye. And they're going to be left to the mercy of Iran. And also, thank heavens, at least he didn't attack NATO for a change. Okay, he did say, there are certain countries that need oil, and it has to come through the straits, but they'll have to take care of that themselves because we don't need any. We have more oil than Iran, Russia, Venezuela, everybody else combined. That's how much oil we have. Well, if we have that much oil, why don't we just start pumping it and selling it to all these countries that usually get it through the straits? We'd make a great deal of money. We wouldn't have to worry about those Persians blocking it off anymore. So once again, that was Mr. Exaggeration. I was very, very disappointed in what he had to say last night. As I say, I knew everything he had to say. I wanted to know about the future. I think the American people wanted to know about the future. That's what I say.
Yeah, I think what the president is doing, he recognizes he's in trouble. Now, again, I know you and I differ about Iran and whether it should be a priority and how evil they are, but that to me isn't the issue so much as why did we go this route? We did it last year. He declared all the nuclear weapons were gone, their ability to do this, and now he came back and then they're finding an excuse. And they came back and they said, well, they launched this war 4 weeks ago saying that Iran was within 2 weeks of launching nuclear weapons against the United States. That's what they said. That's what Trump said. Now, in this speech, what he said was they were developing missiles that we didn't know about. And those missiles, they could reach the United States. To me, this reminds me of Dick Cheney and the weapons of mass destruction and the decision to go into Iraq, where we spent 8 years and lost I don't know how many Americans and cost us a fortune. Iraq had nothing to do with September 11th, but they used the claim of weapons of mass destruction to justify the invasion, to go in there. And they said it was going to be fast. They said it would be within months. We'd be in and out of there. We ended up being there 8 years. And I think that's exactly what Trump is doing. He's no different than Dick Cheney's lie. And I think President Trump is lying. It's not about attacking Iran. I definitely think they're a threat. I just am not confident in Trump being our leader. And worse is this denigration of NATO. Like NATO doesn't matter. Do we want to surrender Europe and Western Europe to the Soviet communism rise? I think that this guy is about himself and will say whatever he has to say to make you think he's the greatest president ever. And that's what his speech was. 20 minutes of BS blather from a narcissist that is absolutely meaningless. We have no idea what he's going to do next. We have no idea how long this war is going to be. And I think this war could go on for years, because as much as he says he's destroyed the Iranian arsenal, this is no different than Vietnam. Those sandal-wearing peasants who we fought with for 19 years beat us without any of that equipment and all that weaponry. They took us down, and we lost 58,000 Americans.
Well, I don't want to get into Vietnam with you. That's a war for another day. But no, I still think that we were perfectly justified in going in to taking out this regime. They had killed many, many Americans in the 47 years that they were in power. I'm glad to see we finally had a president who had the courage to go and take them out once and for all. Unfortunately, I wish we had a president who didn't have the monumental ego that this guy happens to have. Now, I'll tell you, I have supported this conflict right from the beginning. I still support it today. But if we do not get rid of the entire regime that's been in power in Tehran for all these years, then it will have been a mistake, and we will not have accomplished anything. We will have alienated our NATO allies. We will leave those Gulf states, to be in a position where Tehran, when they get themselves rebuilt, they can go after those Gulf states. And I think that's going to be a terrible situation unless we get rid of the regime. And I don't know if that's his goal any longer or not. At one time it was. I don't know if it is now. I think he's simply looking for the easiest way out. And what I'm afraid he's going to do is at some point, he's going to say, well, we won. We can go home. Let's leave. And that'll be a terrible tragedy, not only for the Middle East, not only for us, but frankly, for the entire world, because I think they are a very, very dangerous country. And I think they will be aided in their rebuilding by the Chinese and the Russians.
Now, I think President Narcissist, I won't call him President Trump anymore because I'm really embarrassed by him. His speech, I thought he was like, I don't know if he was on drugs or on sleeping pills. He didn't seem completely awake. If this had been Biden, he'd be the first person referring to Biden as Sleepy Joe. I think it was Sleepy Trump. I think this guy has been brutalized by public opinion, which has been against him. Most Americans are against what he's doing. More than 60 to 65% of Americans don't believe that this is the right way to go. Not saying that Iran isn't a bad country, but what he's doing is terrible. And he's the one who brought in the reference to Vietnam. He's the one that opened the door. Any defense attorney would stand up and say, well, you opened the door, Mr. Narcissist President. He's the one. He said, oh, World War II, we were there 3 years and 8 months. I took these notes. Korea, we were there 3 years. Vietnam, we were there 19 years. Iraq, we were there 8 years and 8 months. Iran, we're there 32 days, period. Like we're gone and it's over. And I agree with you that if you're going to win this war, you have to take out the regime. The problem with that regime change theory is it doesn't work. The people there, you're only empowering them to hate us more because civilians are being killed. We don't report on it. We don't care about that. I think it's going to backfire. And I think we're either in this war for another 8 years like we were in Iraq, and we'll have to send soldiers there, or we walk away from it and pretend like Iran is no longer a threat. If we walk away today, Bill, Iran will be no different tomorrow than it was 30 days ago.
Well, we agree with that. There's a lot that you had to say I don't agree with there. But I'll tell you, we won't be there any longer than when President Rubio gets sworn in, because that'll be one of the first things he does is get us out of there.
Yeah, I was in Miami, by the way, and I have to tell you, I'm really depressed. We'll talk about this maybe in the second segment. Nobody speaks English down there. Every place I went, it was Cuban. That's all they speak, and they've empowered. The Rubio has empowered that, hey, why do we have to speak English? And that's offensive to me because I could not get information from people. There were people who couldn't speak any English at stores that I went into asking for Coca-Cola, Diet Coke, or whatever it is I wanted, some food while I was down there for 5 days. So to me, he will never be president, Bill. I can assure you that. What Trump is doing now is undermining the Republican Party. And while his goals and ambitions may sound good, his achievements are exaggerated. The American people are not stupid. They see through this BS from him. And I think it's going to come back to haunt him on November 3rd when we have our general election. And I think it'll be one of the worst midterm losses for a president that we've ever seen in all the years that we've been documenting these midterm elections that always reverse against the incumbent president. I think this is going to be the worst one ever because of Trump's personality and these erratic policies that he embraces and drops.
I think it's primarily because of his personality, which has a monumental ego as part of it. If he made this speech last night, the night before we were going into attack Tehran and the rest of the Persians over there, I think he could have had a great deal of support in this country. But this, because he told us nothing whatsoever, the support for this started very, very low. And once we started getting squeezed economically, at the gas pump, in the grocery store, he was losing more and more support. I agree with his goal, but he's the last man in the world I would have liked to have seen him at the head of our country trying to achieve that goal. And as far as Miami and Spanish, if that is the case, I think it's terrible. I voted in Congress time after time for English only. I believe that. That's the language of that
I
language
agree.
won against Germany, against German back during the colonial period by one vote. Okay, we could have been speaking German, but English won by one vote. Okay, but that's the only language we should speak here. And if my friend Marco has been advocating that, I have to talk to him.
Now, I think Trump's problem is that he's missing what was missed in the 1992 election. I don't know if you remember, James Carville said, "It's the economy, stupid."
Right, absolutely.
Made that famous catchphrase in Clinton's campaign against George H.W. Bush, who I always felt, even as a Republican, he was a very good president. He wasn't very effective, but I think he was well-meaning. I trusted him. He told the truth. Clinton, he won that election, but I think that's the problem that Trump faces today. It's the economy, stupid, and referring to him. He is trying to distract us from the fact that he promised to make this a better economy. And in fact, it's one of the worst economies we've seen in a long time. I've talked to people who are having trouble struggling to pay their bills. The cost of groceries are so high. I'm amazed at how this is being cast aside. And I tell you what, I blame it on the deterioration of the news media. In 1992, they were very strong. Today, in 2026, the media is a lapdog for whoever has power on the right or the left. They promote politics. They do some good news. Local papers, I think, do great news and are not subject to this influence. But I think the major media is not there to put the focus where the American people believe the problem is. They don't believe that Iran is the number one problem. They believe that this economy is the number one problem, and they want to survive. It's not enough to die of starvation, and not have what we were promised just so we take out some tyrant in some foreign country, I don't know, 9,000-10,000 miles away.
Well, I want to thank that message from the Democratic National Committee.
Well, you're welcome.
It sounded very good. Let me say to you that I agree with you in regards to how bad the midterm elections are going to be for the Republicans. I think the economy is one bad feature that they have to carry, but I think Trump's personality, his ego, may be even a worse, handicap for the Republicans in the midterm elections.
Well, let me ask.
If he ever puts any troops on the ground, he'll be lucky if 10% of the American people support that action.
Right. Let me ask you a question, Bill. I mean, one of the points I was trying to make was Trump gave that speech specifically because he's afraid, and I think he sees this. And I just wondered if you agree with me that these things that he's doing are intended to kind of distract Americans away from our suffering, our economic suffering. Majority, not every American. All his buddies, by the way, his rich, wealthy people, I think he signals them and says, hey, I'm going to launch a war. So you go buy in the market, buy the stocks, sell oil. I think that they're playing the market, and there's like insider trading going around between what he does and what his wealthy people do. But do you believe that he's kind of trying to find a way to get us to not feel the pain we're going through as Americans by doing these things? Or do you think that that's not a factor?
I don't believe that. No, somebody suggested to him that I guess it was Bibi in the Israelis that suggested to him there was going to be a meeting of all the Ayatollahs in Tehran at a certain time, 40 of them. If you attack there, you can get rid of all of those people. That'll chop off the head of the regime. The regime will crumble within 2 to 3 weeks, and you'll be the great liberator of that country. And I think he bought that hook, line, and sinker.
Yes, he did.
Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. But I have to say that in this war, certainly the Israelis have been a very significant ally of ours, helping prosecute this war. But by the same token, no one else has come to help us out. So maybe we shouldn't have gone ahead with this at the time that we did. An interesting thing, though, I was reading the other day that we talk about them getting a bomb. There are people who believe that the North Koreans have 11, 12 atomic bombs at the present time, and that they would be very happy to sell 1 or 2 of them to the people in Tehran. And that's a possibility.
Why wouldn't we be upset with, why don't we invade North Korea?
Because they have the atomic bomb.
Yes, but they have the atomic bomb, and the North Koreans are more threatening than anybody. Those people are nuts. They're brainwashed. They got a crazy leader. They're a bigger threat. They attack us all the time. They threaten us. It's just horrible. And at any moment, they could cross that line and take over South Korea. And what would we do? This is what I'm worried about. We're taking our eye off the ball of what's really happening in the world just for good headlines. And by the way,
I don't think North Korea was attacking us very much whatsoever. I think they've got their atomic bombs. They have those primarily for defense. They haven't even really tried to move on South Korea. But if they do, the problem is South Korea and Japan. Those are the two places that are really going to suffer. We're not going to suffer because they don't have any, that we know of, any intercontinental ballistic missiles. Okay. And we will obliterate them, if they try to move on South Korea or on Japan.
Don't use Trump's words, obliterate, because we've obliterated nothing. Iran is as strong as it has been.
I apologize for that.
No, I don't mean to.
No, I know what you mean.
Do that.
As soon as I said it, I said to myself, I shouldn't have used that word.
Yeah, we get these. He promises. Here's Trump's problem. He promises things and he doesn't deliver. And I agree that I think this war was started not for the real reasons that he said it was started for. That's the problem I have with this war. Not that we shouldn't go after Iran or find a way to take out their leadership. It's more about why are we doing it? And I think we're doing it for several reasons. One, because Israel told us to do that. Israel's government, not Israel. And by the way, it's Passover. Happy Passover to all our Jewish listeners. A lot of Jews do not support Benjamin Netanyahu. He is a war criminal in their eyes. And just this week, they passed this law that said they passed a law to execute the death penalty law only for Christians and Muslims. If you're a Christian and a Muslim, you can be sentenced to death, but not if you're Jewish.
In Israel?
And to me, yes, that law just passed this week. And anybody except a Jewish person, and I don't support the death penalty there, can be put to death on the orders of the government. And to me, that's the foundation of apartheid. But for us to listen to that guy telling us that we need to do anything, I think was a big mistake. The other theory I have why President Trump did this, because the Epstein files have more dirt about him than he wants the public to know. And I think this is a great distraction away from the truth that we needed to hear.
Well, Ray, if there's that much about him in the Epstein files, why was it that Joe Biden or Barack Obama did not reveal that? They had all the information that Trump has at the present time. So
because I think they were in it. I think they were, not them personally, but I think Democrats also would suffer from the Epstein files. And they tried to keep it a secret, but they didn't start a war to distract from it. That's the problem. They worked with Republicans to suppress the Epstein files. I believe that's my theory.
I believe those Persians started the war 47 years ago.
I believe it was the U.S. that started the war almost 58, 60 years ago when we undermined democracy in Iran and installed the Shah of Iran, the tyrant who murdered millions of Iranians with our money and our support, and we didn't care.
Well, we were trying to save them from communism.
And has it worked? Look at
so
Russia.
Far.
No, not so far. And see, that's the other part of this too. And I know we got to cut this short really quick, but I'm just concerned about the lack of focus on a real war between Russia and Ukraine. Let's take a break, Bill. And if we want to continue to talk a little bit about Ukraine, let's do that before we get into Birthright. How's that?
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with this deep discussion about all these issues right after these messages.
Do you receive SNAP food assistance? When it's time to update your information, it's important to keep your information fresh. and report any changes to your income, employment, family situation, or address. Life changes. Make sure your benefits keep up. Together, we can help keep food on the table. Learn more at michigan.gov/food assistance. Sponsored by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
A car accident can change your life in an instant. As a result of a car accident, you may become unemployed. As a result of a car accident, you may need a lot of medical treatment. People think that insurance companies are on their side. Why? Because they're giving them one or two benefits. Are they giving them all the benefits they deserve? How would one know unless you consult with an attorney? Call the law offices of Jumana Kiruz at 248-557-3645. 248-557-3645.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
Want to stay in the driver's seat of your health? My Mobile Health units remove barriers to getting prevention healthcare services. My Mobile Health brings free or low-cost services to local communities, so you can easily access health screenings, lab tests, vaccines, guidance, and more. We're paving the way to better health. See when and where we're rolling into your community at michigan.gov/mobile health. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
And welcome back. Bill, we were talking in the last segment about shifting over to the Forgotten War.
Yes.
It's been going on. How long has that been going on? Since February 2022, right? Isn't that like 4 years?
I just put up my third Ukrainian flag. It's the third one because I fly it every day and it fades. And I just got a new one. I just put it up. So it's been going on quite a long period of time. But if you would read the newspapers, I don't think you could find anything in the newspapers anymore other than the fact that the Ukrainians are helping us with the technology on how to shoot down some of these, what do you call them?
Drones, the drones.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's ironic that we have to get help from the Ukrainians to do that. And of course, the situation in Gaza is another one that has disappeared totally and completely.
Yeah, and it's sad because the problem now in Gaza isn't so much Hamas. I had a chance to listen to Jared Kushner, by the way, and I have to say that despite all the criticism of him from the media, he was very sympathetic to the need, to help the people there, to get humanitarian aid there. All this talk that he wanted to build luxury resorts there for the Israelis and foreigners. He never said that. He said he wants the people to be safe and he wants to bring them back to Gaza. To me, this is eye-opening because the media is spinning the politics. We don't get the truth anymore. So that was a really interesting aspect to hear him directly rather than through the spin, of the right-wing media or the left-wing media. But I agree with you that the Ukraine war, it's been going on too long. We should have stopped Russia. I believe Russia is a far bigger threat than Iran. Russia is one of Iran's allies. Russia will step in when this is over, whenever the Iran war is over, and help Iran. They are not going to allow Iran to disappear from their circle of evil empire. The Russians are the head of the snake, Putin, and we need to stop it there. And we're not.
Listen, can you explain to me why we have blockaded, when I say we, I say the United States of America. We've blockaded Cuba. The Cubans are starving for oil. They
Right.
can't heat their homes. They can't light their streets. And all of a sudden, we allow a Russian oil tanker to get
Right.
through that blockade. And what
Right.
does Trump say? Well, it was a humanitarian thing.
Yeah.
Can you honestly explain
No.
to me why we would do that if we are not that close to the Russians and Putin?
I can't explain that other than to say that Trump and Putin, I think, are people of the same color and stripe, and they come from the same world. And I think Trump is a more democratic version of Putin, maybe less tyrannical. But I think that those two get together far closer than he does with any of the leaders of NATO, the democracies that he constantly insults all the time. NATO is the wall that stopped Russia from taking over Western Europe and isolating America. And while it's true, we're much more powerful and richer than all those individual NATO countries, we have to be allies, and we have to be respectful and show gratitude for their role. They're the front line against Russia. If Russia launches a war, they're the ones that are going to suffer first, not us. I think it's really disrespectful for President Narcissist to just slam them the way he has. It's very upsetting to me.
Well, fortunately, he didn't do so in his speech last night. Not directly, anyway.
Right. Yeah, no, he didn't. But he will. You know, he's looking for any excuse he can. All right, you want to shift gears over to this issue of birthright?
Absolutely.
It's the 14th Amendment that was passed after the Civil War. And just for listeners, because people don't remember these things. They passed this, the 14th Amendment was created because there were slaves after the Civil War who were forcibly brought into this country, and it was intended to include them, non-citizens who were brought in illegally or through slavery, to become citizens. That's been twisted around today in today's world to say, oh, it's open to the intent of the 14th Amendment was to recognize all people who had children in this country, that they should be recognized as citizens. And that's the one thing I disagree with. If you come into this country illegally and you're not a legal citizen, no visa, no approval from the government to be here, and you have a child, then your child should not be recognized as a citizen. If you do have a visa, if you're here legally, whether you're a citizen or not, and you have a child, yes, that child should be recognized as an American citizen.
Well, I think that we should do something to modify the situation, okay?
Yes. Yeah.
But I do not believe it is possible for Trump or any other president to issue an executive order and change the law of this country.
I agree with you.
That has to be done by the Congress, the states, the people, and then the president signing onto it. I listened to the debate yesterday in the Supreme Court. There's no question in my mind that they are going to rule against Trump, okay? Because you cannot have one man have that much power. And it says so in the United States Constitution.
I agree with you.
It was just another ego trip on his part. And then he shows up at the Supreme Court, the first time in the history of this country that a sitting president goes to hear a debate at the Supreme Court. Why do you think he was there?
To intimidate them.
Absolutely. You are absolutely correct.
He wanted to bully and intimidate them because that's his style.
And but he got bored after an hour, so he had to get up and leave.
Yeah, and I think though that you're absolutely right. You can't just issue a proclamation and change the Constitution or the 14th Amendment. But I do believe that it is being incorrectly interpreted in terms of what it means. That's what I think needs to be clarified, and it's being used by people to defend these what they call anchor babies. An illegal person sneaks into the country, has a baby, knowing that they're pregnant, has the baby here, has the baby become an American citizen, and that becomes the foundation for them to become American citizens. They live here illegally. They may do something wrong. They're arrested. They're kicked out of the country, and they get sympathy because people say, well, what about the American citizen baby that they had? Look how we as America have abandoned them. They've turned this issue upside down to make us look bad, when the intent of this was to help recognize people who are in this country. The only people that clearly cannot have citizenship for their babies are diplomats from other countries. They're definitely outside. But
Right.
I don't think the 14th Amendment correctly addresses the issue of people who illegally come into this country. And I believe the words of the 14th Amendment are being twisted to say, well, they were allowing slaves many were brought in illegally, who didn't have citizenship. When their kids were born, they became American citizens. That's why they changed that law when they did, to accommodate them.
One thing I want to say, Ray, you got to be up to date. They were not slaves. They were enslaved people. Haven't you noticed that? That the news media now calls them enslaved people, not just slaves. Okay, that's the new terminology. I have no problem with it whatsoever, but I want you to be up to date.
Yeah, well, there was a definite spin that's being taken place. There is a movement to support illegal aliens and just allow anybody to come into this country. And I don't think it's being mean for me to say, or uncaring to say, that nobody should enter this country unless we know who they are, where they're coming from, and that they will agree to abide by what our laws are. In fact, the 14th Amendment says you have to pledge your allegiance to this country. It's very specific in there. It says it in there. And we're circumventing that by what's happening. And I think Trump has misrepresented this through his ego. And I think he's damaging this argument that this 14th Amendment should be interpreted properly. I think it's his ego getting in the way of the truth. And he's doing a disservice to all those people who think that if you're the child of an illegal alien, you should not become an American citizen. So I think he's damaging this whole issue.
I agree with you. Now, have you heard anybody other than him talk about all these rich Chinese coming over here and having babies in this country? Have you heard of anybody else say that?
No, I have not.
The only one I've heard say, why would those Chinese, want to come over here and have a baby and their child, is an American? I don't understand that. I don't understand the logic behind his statement. I mean, if you take a look at university graduating classes, which bachelor's degrees and
and graduates, right?
It's overwhelmingly Chinese. It's incredible how many Chinese there, and they haven't become citizens. They come here on a visa to go to school. I mean, that's another statement that Trump is making. I guess he thinks that most Americans fear China more than anything else. So he's going to say all these Chinese are coming over here, having babies here, and somehow they're going to be a fifth column to take us down.
Yeah, I was at a graduation a couple years ago at Northwestern graduate school, and I would say 95 to 96% of the students were Chinese, and very few were actually American citizens. Now, the Chinese that I met, most of them were very nice people, but as you know, it's the odds, the game of odds. 99% can be great people. It only takes one person to do the nasty, destructive things that we have to protect ourselves from. It's not all the Chinese that want to come in here that we have to protect ourselves from. We have to vet people. We have to know who they are. We have to see their backgrounds. And that's what's being lost in this whole discussion. Nobody wants to do that. Just come on in, sneak through, have a baby, become a citizen. And by the way, if you're in a blue state, we'll help you with health care. We'll let you work. We'll do what we can to protect you. And then on the other side, we have Trump, who is abusing this whole process, the Department of Homeland Security and ICE, showcasing them as a demonstration of strength rather than letting them do their job like police officers that they really are, to find the criminals, arrest them, and take them off the streets.
One good thing to say about Trump, though, he's paying those TSA agents.
Finally, yes, he did.
Yes.
You know, I traveled this past week, and I have to say that in Florida, where he lives, Mar-a-Lago, the airport there had no problems.
Oh, I wonder why.
But there were a lot of problems here in Chicago at O'Hare Airport, and Midway Airport wasn't so bad, but I left in a very early, odd day. So I figured that was the reason, but it was spring break. So I don't know. How about something positive? Anything more on Birthright that you wanted to mention, Bill, at all? Or?
No, I mean, I certainly would have no trouble if someone in Congress wanted to, change that amendment around so it would not apply to anchor babies or anybody else that deliberately came over here and had a child here and then went back to their country or even stayed in this country. No, the issue I agree with Trump on. I'd like to get rid of it, but he can't do it. And I'm tired of him doing things by himself. And then we get down the line 6 or 8 months and a court or the Supreme Court says, no, you can't do that. It gets to be too chaotic, too confusing for people. We have to stop doing that. He has to stop doing that.
And I'm tired of people attacking me for saying, you're being insensitive, you're being cruel, you're being inhumane. You have no sympathy for these people that are suffering. Illegals are coming into our country because they need our help. And I'm saying, hey, let them come into our country, but not illegally. Make them come through the process. I want to know everybody that comes in. I want to know what their background is, and then decide and have a policy. Focus on a policy that would then filter out the good from the bad and then allow the good to come in our country. I'd be in support of it 100% because 90 million people came into this country between the Civil War and the Civil War. And I'm not against the fact that we are a country based on immigration, but it's a country based on immigrants who have been vetted, who have been wanted to be here to be American, and who took the Pledge of Allegiance, swore their allegiance to this country, and said, I'm American first, even though I'll never let go of my ethnicity and my heritage. And I think that's their absolute right. I'm Arab. I love my Arab culture and heritage, but I'm a proud American. I served this country in the military. I didn't serve in a foreign country's military, and I think that should be banned also.
You know anyone that did do that?
Pardon me?
Do you know anyone who did do that?
I know that there are people that, the mayor of Chicago served in the Israeli military, not in the U.S. military. That was Rahm Emanuel. He served 3 weeks in the Israeli military. That upsets me, not just because it's Israel's government.
No, it upsets me too.
It just served this country first. I tell you what, if Trump got up there and said, Barron Trump, my son, is going to be enlisting to serve this country, I'd have more respect for him. But he's not going to do that. Oh. All these people that are running around saying, we're going to go and we're going to fight Hegseth and all these, we're going to obliterate, we're going to destroy, we're going to bomb. They have nothing to lose. And that's why they don't care, except us. They're going to lose us. All right, one positive thing, right, Bill? How old were you in 1972 when they landed on the moon?
Oh, yes, landing on the moon. Well, let's see, I was 30, I think I was about 32, 33 years old.
Yeah, I think I was I was 19 years old. And I have to tell you, that was a very powerful moment that really gave me faith, and I'm sure you too, about where this country was going. We were doing great things, leading in science, leading in, space exploration, looking at something that may benefit us. Maybe there are things on the moon that we could exploit to help benefit the people here. So it was great to see that launch yesterday of this Artemis 2, I think they call it. Is that what it is? The Artemis 2? Pardon me?
I believe that's what it is. Yes, I was very proud to see that happen. I think what's going to happen, though, in regards to space travel, I think that some private corporations are going to surpass NASA in traveling.
Yes.
They seem to be able to put more money into it. They seem to be able to develop things faster. So I think that there'll be Americans primarily that'll be going, to the moon and then beyond that to Mars. But I don't think it'll be as much of the federal government as it has been.
Yeah.
Which will probably be good for the citizens.
I think it was amazing how our technology allows us to send a rocket up into space and land it straight up, perpendicular from the ground rocket and have it land the way it took off. That's amazing technology. And that saves us a lot of money because we could reuse those space rockets and spaceships over and over again to save money. So that was a good thing. I was really inspired by that. And of course, when we saw, who was it that walked on the moon? I mean, it's been so long ago. It's like, it takes me forever to remember some of these things.
Neil Armstrong.
It shouldn't be that strong. It shouldn't be that difficult. We should have continued this a long time ago, and we should never have stopped that space exploration. I think we'd be far advanced if we had continued it. And that's the one thing I'm glad that Trump is allowing. But I think he's doing it because he needs these positive things to offset all the negatives that surround. But it was a good thing.
I wish someone would talk him into taking a trip on one of those up to the moon, and we could leave him there.
Yeah, it was. All right, Bill. Anything else? Any other items? It is Passover. It's Easter this Sunday, right? So we wish everybody happy Passover and happy Easter. And then for the Greek Orthodox, like my family, Easter is actually a week from Sunday, and we wish them, the Orthodox, a happy Easter also as it comes up, because this Sunday will be their Palm Sunday. So we wish everybody has a great holiday. All right. I'm Ray Hanania.
Very good. Until next time, I'm Bill Lipinski.
And we will talk to you later.
Until the next time, you're Ray Hanania.
All right.
You take care.
And we'll take care. You guys have a great week. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.
Arab Center Washington, D.C. was established in 2015 to serve as a Washington-based authoritative research center on the Arab world and U.S. policies in the region. My name is Khalil Jahshan, and I'm the Executive Director of Arab Center, Washington, D.C.
I am Tamara Kharoub. I'm the Deputy Executive Director and Senior Fellow here. Our mission at Arab Center, Washington, D.C. has been to provide Arab perspectives to U.S. policy conversations and to highlight rights-centered approaches to policymaking as a way to serve the causes of human rights, democracy, just and peaceful resolution to conflict, and constructive long-term U.S. interest in the region.
Our work also addresses fundamental aspects of U.S.-Arab relations through timely and objective academic research, policy analysis, and educational exchange, reaching millions of people here in the United States and around the world.
Since our inception, we invested in producing reliable, evidence-based, and inclusive analysis on important issues shaping the Middle East and North Africa.
We would like to invite you personally to check out our publications and events at arabcenterdc.org.
And please follow our social media platforms for timely responses to news, events, and current affairs.
arabcenterdc.org.
Do you receive SNAP food assistance? When it's time to update your information, it's important to keep your information fresh and report any changes to your income, employment, family situation, or address. Life changes. Make sure your benefits keep up. Together, we can help keep food on the table. Learn more at michigan.gov/food assistance. Sponsored by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
Tired of the complexities of immigration? Haunted by the threat of deportation? Struggling to reunite with your family? Have you ever dreamed of living and working legally in America but don't know where to start? L. Sharnoby & Associates Law Firm, a leader in immigration and naturalization law, offers you legal support across the United States. We specialize in asylum, deportation defense, green cards and citizenship, family reunification, all types of immigration visas. Don't wait any longer. Contact us today and let our expertise lead you toward a secure and stable future. To schedule a consultation, call us at 313-581-9666. That's 313-581-9666. 581-9666. When the aroma of Mahmoud Sela Basmati fills the air, you know it's going to be a good meal. Extra long pearly white grains that cook up fluffy, separate, and light. Never heavy, never sticky, just pure, fragrant perfection. It's the rice that feels as good as it tastes, gentle on the stomach and full of energy. Elevate your everyday. Ask for Mahmoud Basmati at your supermarket and taste the difference. After years of war, displacement, and loss, the silence left behind is the heaviest part. In Gaza, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen, families are trying to begin again. Their children aren't asking for the impossible, they're just asking for a chance. At this critical moment, education is more than a classroom, it's a lifeline. It restores dignity, heals trauma, and opens the door to a future that war tried to close. Life for Relief and Development stands by these families. We move beyond emergency aid to provide the stability of long-term education in conflict zones. This Ramadan, your gift, even $50 or $100, can change a child's story from a victim of war to a student of the future. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 800-827-3543. Life for Relief and Development. Together, we build beyond war.